Hello everyone. So I'm Dr. Nikita Valluri, working as an assistant professor in Sridatta Institute of Pharmacy. Now I'm here to take a new topic, that is protein calorie malnutrition. It's also called as another name is protein energy malnutrition. So it has two different names. So what is protein calorie? Before going to this topic, what were the learning objectives? That means what were the things that you should be able to know after the completion of this section. So it includes you should be able to define malnutrition, understand the concept of protein energy malnutrition. PEM is nothing but protein energy malnutrition, and also describe the factors associated with protein energy malnutrition, classify them, and what are the preventive measures that should be taken in order to prevent this protein energy malnutrition. So these were the different learning objectives. So now we are going into this our topic, that is protein calorie malnutrition or protein energy malnutrition. So before going into this, we should know what is malnutrition. Malnutrition. Mal is nothing but bad nutrition. So that means there is deficiency in nutrition intake. That means in our body, whatever the required nutritional requirement is there, if we fail to reach that requirement, then we call it as malnutrition. Okay, it's a range of conditions occurring when intake of one or more nutrients doesn't meet the requirements, whether it may be proteins, carbohydrates, or any sugars, or any fiber, or any vitamins. So whatever it may be, if whatever the nutrient requirements which are required to our body, so if that is not, if any one of it is not supplied in the required amount, then we call it as malnutrition. Okay, so this is commonly seen in preschool age children, that is like before the age of 5 years, 5 to 6 years. So generally we see this protein energy malnutrition in preschool age children. Okay, and what was the main cause for this protein energy malnutrition is food inadequacy. Food inadequacy, that means inadequate supply of food, so that causes PEM. Okay, so generally, like initially, it was described as protein gap. Protein gap means deficiency of protein supply in the diet. So initially, it was termed as protein gap. So it's not only PEM is not only because of protein deficiency, it is also due to inappropriate supply of micronutrients, vitamins, iron, zinc, and also carbohydrates. So it may be any of these nutrients. If it is supplied in inadequate amounts, then we call it as malnutrition, that is protein energy malnutrition. Okay, so it may be poor both quantitatively and qualitatively. So not only the amount of proteins, not only the amount of these nutrients, but also their quality is also plays an most important impact on this malnutrition. So what is undernutrition? So this undernutrition is described in 4 different forms. So first is underweight. Underweight means being underweight for one's age. So for example, we'll be calculating BMI, that is body mass index, and that will be calculating this age of the individual and weight and height. So underweight is nothing but, for example, a 30 years age, like, or else 20 years of age, they should be like according to their age, they should weigh approximately 50 to 60 kgs. So that amount, that much weight, if it is not there according to in respect with respect to age, then we call it as underweight. So being underweight for one's age, that we call it as underweight. And stunted means being too short for one's age. So some people, they'll be like lilliputs, or they'll not grow in height, so then we call it as stunted means being too short for one's age. And then wasted means being dangerously thin, so completely they'll be like they'll be looking like a skeleton, then we call it as wasted. So weight for height, so they'll be very much lean, so then we call it as wasted. And then micronutrient malnutrition, that means micronutrient malnutrition means deficiency of certain vitamins, iron, and zinc, then we call it as micronutrient malnutrition. So that is also termed as hidden hunger. So these were the different terms that we use for undernutrition. It includes underweight, stunted, wasted, micronutrient malnutrition. Is that clear? Underweight means with respect to age, they'll be having less weight. Stunted means with respect to age, they'll be very short. Wasted means they'll be very thin. Then we call it as vastate. Micronutrient malnutrition means they will be having deficiency of nutrients like vitamins and minerals. And then coming to epidemiology, epidemiology is nothing but how, like in the whole world, how was the distribution of this malnutrition is seen. So it is more commonly seen in low income countries. Why? Because of this low income, they will be unable to take enough or adequate food, and also qualitative food. That means which is rich in proteins, carbohydrates, and nutrients. And also children from large urban areas in low socio-economic neighborhoods, like in uh, like street those who lives in streets and all, even though they are living in urban areas, but they belong to low socioeconomic range, they also are at risk of getting this PEM. And also it also can be seen in children with chronic diseases and who are hospitalized for a different diagnosis. So if there is chronic diseases, they will not be taking food adequately, so it may also causes protein energy malnutrition. And it's fairly common worldwide in both children and adults and accounts for 6 million deaths annually. So 6 million deaths were taking place because of this protein calorie malnutrition. In world, it was found to be that more than one third of the world's population is suffering with this protein calorie malnutrition. And for all indicators of PEM, a total of 80% of the children affected live in Asia. So out of all the population, 80% of the affected people were seen in Asia, especially in Southern Asia. And 43% of the children are seen in developing countries are stunted. That means they are very short. And 50% of child deaths in developing countries are related to malnutrition. So India also comes under developing countries. So 50% of child deaths in developing countries is due to malnutrition. So these were the epidemiological factors, or these were the statistics of deaths and prevalence of this protein calorie malnutrition worldwide. See, this was the graph showing under age 3 years in India undernutrition. So stunted were seen this much, underweight and wasted. So this was the ratio that was seen. And now coming to classification. So this protein energy malnutrition is mainly classified or divided into two different types. One is kwashiorkor and the other is marasmus. I think you are very much familiar with these two terms. You have studied it many times in your intermediate or in your school. So you are very much familiar, I think. So kwashiorkor is nothing but it's a protein malnutrition mainly. Marasmus is nothing but decreased calorie intake, that is calorie malnutrition, decreased calorie intake. Marasmic kwashiorkor means there will be marked significant protein deficiency along with deficiency in calories, that we call it as marasmic kwashiorkor. Okay, these were the three main types: kwashiorkor, marasmus, and marasmic kwashiorkor. Kwashiorkor is protein deficiency, marasmus is calorie deficiency, marasmic kwashiorkor is both protein and calorie deficiency. Okay, so these were the different types of protein energy malnutrition. If you see this picture, here the right side, left side picture is showing kwashiorkor and the right side one is showing marasmus. So the signs and symptoms we'll be seeing in the next, like in the next slides. Okay, in detail we'll be discussing about these two different types of malnutrition. And also there are different classifications were given according to Gomez classification, IAP classification, World Health Organization classification, Waterloo's classification, and Wellcome's classification. So these were different patterns of classifying this protein energy malnutrition. So in Gomez classification, it is mainly dependent on weight. So here in this, we'll be calculating the weight according to age. If the percentage like weight for age, so for that we'll be calculating in with the formula weight of the child by weight of the normal child into 100. So that means actually to that age there is a standard, like for example for 20 years age it should be like 50, but the individual who is having that disease, if his weight is for 50, if he is weighing 30, then we have to calculate as 30 by 50 into 100. So depending on the percentage which was came, so with that we'll be giving the grade. If it is greater than 90%, then there is no malnutrition, it is normal. If it is 75 to 90%, grade 1, 60 to 75%, grade 2, less than 60% means grade 3. So how we are calculating it? Only depending on the parameter which is weight according to age. So weight of the individual for whom we are going to check, and divided by weight of the like standard weight according to age into 100. So with this formula we'll be calculating that weight for age, and if the depending on the percentage we'll be giving the grade, whether it is malnourished. If it is so, then what was the grade. So this is how we'll be classifying according to Gomez classification. So the disadvantages is sometimes cutoff point 90% is very much high, and so these were classified as grade 1 malnutrition. So and also here only the parameter which we are considering is weight. So sometimes it may be there may be like due to long term hospitalization also the patient like the individual may lose weight, or due to an acute malnutritions like regarding any intestinal diseases. Because of this improper or malabsorption also they'll be having less weight to that particular time period. So we cannot consider only weight as a standard to class to differentiate like to give the grade to give gradings to this malnutrition. So this is the disadvantage of Gomez classification. And there are other classifications like IAP classification and mid-arm circumference. So again, this is also based on weight for age. So depending on the percentage, we'll be grading it as mild, moderate, and severe. And MAC, that is nothing but mid-arm circumference. Mid-arm circumference. So if it is greater than 13.5, that means it checks the mass. Muscle mass will be measured with using a tape. So if it was greater than 13.5, then it was satisfactory. And if it is between 12.5 to 13.5, then it indicates mild to moderate. And if it is less than 12.5, it indicates severe malnutrition. So this is another method of grading or classifying this malnutrition. So this is how we'll be classifying these malnutritions. There are other two methods are also there. Then coming to etiology, etiology is nothing but causes. So these were due to economic and social factors, poor economic conditions, poor social well-being, environmental factors, age, and biological factors. So all these were the factors which will influence, which may influence either directly or indirectly to get this protein energy malnutrition. Okay, the risk factors. So diagnosis of intellectual disability, some people like autism patients, so who are having intellectual disability from their childhood, from their birth, they are at risk of getting this PEM. Cystic fibrosis, cardiovascular disease, end stage renal disease. So in these people will not be taking food adequately, so that they'll not be taking inadequate amounts of diet. Oncological diseases like cancers, genetic diseases, neurological disease, multiple diagnosis, prolonged hospitalization. So these are all, so those who are having any of these diseases, so they are at risk of getting this protein energy malnutrition in their later ages. And then factors associated with PEM, it includes antenatal and postnatal care, low birth spacing, feeding practices, rural urban distribution, gender, infection environment, literacy rate, socioeconomic status of family. So these were the factors that were associated with PEM. And malnutrition, how it is correlated with infection. So inadequate dietary intake, if it is there, it causes weight loss. So it also causes growth failure. So because of all this, there will be decreased or compromised immunity and mucosal damage. So as their immune system is compromised, they are at risk of getting more amount of infections, more number of infections. So because of these infections also, they will again have this appetite loss, nutritional loss, malabsorption, altered metabolism, and because of all this also it causes inadequate dietary intake. So it is a cyclic process. So when there is inadequate dietary intake, it causes compromises the immune system. So when immune system is compromised, it causes infections. So once if there is infections, again it causes malabsorption or decreased appetite. So all of this again causes the inadequate dietary intake. So this is a cyclic process. So you should take diet properly. And then coming to complications, it causes water and electrolyte and mineral imbalance, hypothermia, decreased baseline temperature, hypoglycemia, super added infections. And just now we have discussed how it is related to infections, and vitamin deficiency, Lactose intolerance, that means they will be unable to digest milk and milk products. That is lactose intolerance. Cardiac failure, bleeding tendency, renal impairment, and long-term effects includes growth retardation and mental retardation. So these were the complications of protein calorie malnutrition. And then coming to pathophysiology. So first, how it is caused? It is caused by starvation. Starvation is nothing but if you are not taking food in a required amount, that we call it as starvation. So it is caused by starvation. So it is caused when there is inadequate intake of proteins or energy or both. So this state makes the body to start adjusting metabolically in terms of hormone secretion. So our body, it has a system to get adapted to the situations. So what does it do? Whatever the food, if it is provided adequately, it will take it and utilize it properly. If we are not giving it adequate proteins and calories, what our body will do? Again, it will adjust metabolically, and also it also gets adjusted, tries to adjust to this inadequate supply of proteins and calories. So in terms of hormone secretion, like the production of thyroxine is decreased in order to reduce the metabolic rate. So when there is fast metabolic rate, you will feel so hungry, right? When the metabolic rate is slow, then you will not feel hungry for a longer time. So as you're not taking the food properly, our metabolism will be slowed down. And those, not only this, and hormones like thyroxine, they also will be produced in less amount. So in order to reduce the metabolic rate. So when there is less metabolic rate, less amount of energy is required. So this is how hormones will be secreted in order to reduce the metabolic rate. And then fat loss is slowed by reduction in energy expenditure. So it has only reserved amount of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. So what does our body do? It will reduce its energy, like it will reduce its consumption of energy by reducing the loss of fat that the body accomplishes both by reducing the metabolic rate. And then as a result, growth is suspended. So because of all this, the growth will be suspended. So this causes the retardation, growth retardation, and also mental retardation. So because of this, it causes severe wasting, which is seen in malnourished children. So generally there is a concept that carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So first our body utilizes carbohydrates for producing ATP. So once the reserves of carbohydrates were finished, it will depend upon proteins. So once these were used, then it will depend on fat, right? So as we are not providing the adequate supply of proteins and calories, what does our body do? It will depend on fats for the production of its energy, right? So because of this, whatever the fat which is there beneath these superficial layers of the skin and all or muscle, it also gets utilized. So fat loss will be taking place. So once there is loss of fat, it causes wasting. Wasting is nothing but the patient looks very thin, dangerously thin. So this is how wasting takes place. Okay. And then the body literally digests itself to maintain the serum levels. So in order to maintain the serum levels, it will digest the whatever the required fat which is necessary, that will be digested. As a result, there will be progressive loss of fat and muscle tissue as well as depletion of electrolytes. So whatever the fat which is there to provide a coating layer or which will provide support to these internal organs, that also will get diluted, and muscle tissues will also be damaged to liberate energy, and also there will be depletion of electrolytes also takes place. And as a result of all these, what does our body do? It will be compromised. Our body's immune system will be compromised. Why? Because as it is not having required amount of energy, it cannot be able to fight with foreign particles. So because of that, what will happen? There is more tendency to get infections, right? And may worsen the condition of the children. So when there are more infections, again it will worsen the condition of the children. And as long as the starvation ratio of energy and protein was not too low, so if the starvation and protein energy, if the stage is like for a lesser period, we can we can treat it immediately. We can bring it back to the normal immediately once we start giving the adequate amounts of dietary proteins and calories. But if that stage was crossed, we cannot handle that situation. That means even though if we are providing the excess amount of proteins and calories, the body may not respond to it properly. Okay. And then kwashiorkor was thought to be caused by insufficient protein consumption but with sufficient calorie intake. So kwashiorkor is nothing but decreased protein intake, but there is sufficient amount of calorie, that is carbohydrates intake. When coming to marasmus, marasmus is nothing but there will be insufficient calorie consumption. So that is called as marasmus. So once again, I'll repeat this pathophysiology. So when there is inadequate supply of carbohydrates, proteins, so what our body do, it will get adjusted with whatever the proteins and calories that we are supplying, right? So once these reserves were utilized, it has to get some energy in some or the other way. So what does it do? Whatever the muscle tissue which is having protein, that will be broken down to get energy. And after that, what will it do? It will depend on the fat which is, or the body fat stores will be there. That will be utilized. So in this way, what will happen? This fat also gets dissolved. Fat loss also will be taking place. So because of this fat loss, there will be wasting. Wasting is nothing but severe thinning, dangerous thinning of the body. So that will be taking place. And also during this process, when it is utilizing fats, so it causes loss of fat stores, and electrolyte depletion will be taking place. Muscle tissue will be lost. So this is how the patient will become too lean because of this malnutrition. And when there is this when it gets continued, what does it will do? It will compromise our immune system. So once our immune system is compromised, there is more tendency to get infections. So once if you are get affected by these attacked by these infections, so again it will worsens the condition of the individual. That is nothing but it will worsens the condition of the child. So if we are going to identify it in the earlier stages, and if the ratio is not too low, then we can bring back the child to the normal by providing sufficient or adequate amounts of proteins and calories. Okay, and now from, as I said, that there are two different types of malnutrition, that is kwashiorkor and marasmus. Now we are going to start with kwashiorkor. So what is kwashiorkor? Kwashiorkor is nothing but protein deficiency, but there is sufficient supply of calories, that is carbohydrates. So where does this kwashiorkor term came from? So this is derived from the word Greek word, that is Ga, language of Ghana. It means sickness of the weaning. So from that word it was derived. So Williams was the one who used this term in 1933 for inadequate protein supply. And it's also called as wet protein energy malnutrition, characterized primarily by protein deficiency. So it's nothing but protein deficiency. And it appears at the age of about 12 months, that means at the age of 1 year, when breastfeeding is discontinued. But it can develop at any time during a child's formative years. Like till 12 years, it may be started at 1 year, and it also may develop at any age, like till they reach some puberty. Till then, they may get this kwashiorkor if they are not taking adequate amount of proteins. And it causes fluid retention. As you all know that when there is no proper protein is not there, what does it will do? It will cause the accumulation of fluid. So thereby it causes edema and dry peeling skin and hair discoloration. So these were the main classical signs of kwashiorkor. One is edema because of fluid retention, dry peeling skin, and hair discoloration. And not only this protein deficiency, recently the studies have identified that due to deficiency of these micronutrients and antioxidants, also it causes the signs of kwashiorkor. And also those who are having kwashiorkor, they will be unable to produce antibodies to vaccines. Generally vaccines, what is a vaccine? Vaccine will be given to produce antibodies against a disease, even though if it's not entered into our body. So in case of kwashiorkor, as their immune system, as they are weak, as their immune system is compromised, even though if we are giving vaccine, they were unable to produce antibodies to vaccines like diphtheria and typhoid. And generally, so if the patient is having this kwashiorkor, it can be treated by adding the food which is rich in proteins. Okay. And if it is continuing for a longer duration, it also affects not only growth, physical development, but also it affects the mental development of the child. And if it is continuing further, then it also cause severe, in if it is very much severe, then it also may lead to death of the child and death of the child. And what are the causes? As we already discussed in the broad term, that is protein energy malnutrition. So it is caused due to deficiency in protein, dietary protein. So it may be due to like gastrointestinal system, like malabsorption in the GI system. And because of this lack of proteins, what does it will do? It cause swelling of this GI tract, which is diagnosed as edema or retention of water. So these were the symptoms. So when there is a edema or fluid retention in the gastrointestinal tract, it causes this much belly. Large belly is formed. Why? Because of deficiency of proteins, it causes fluid retention. So when because of this fluid retention, they will be having large bellies and they will be very thin with large bellies. So changes in the skin pigment, it will be dry and peeling skin, decreased muscle mass. So this muscle mass circumference will be decreased. Diarrhea will be there. Why? Because because of this damage to gut region. So there will be diarrhea. Failure to gain weight and grow. So even they'll not be growing with their age. Fatigue means weakness, large belly. So the belly will be protruding this way. Loss of muscle mass, rash, they will be having dermatitis, swelling. It may be like swelling in the ankles, hands, facial puffiness. So all these kind of things can be seen. It is seen in the age of first to 3 years of life generally. It also causes fatty liver, infection, wasting, high case fatality, and low prevalence, and also mental changes. So these were the symptoms of kwashiorkor. Then coming to diagnosis, so on physical examination, there will be muscle wasting, and also some certain laboratory investigations were done to diagnose this kwashiorkor. Then coming to treatment, so in order to avoid all these problems, so the person must be rehabilitated with small but like, so all of a sudden we should not start giving large amounts of proteins in their diet. So slowly we have to increase the dose of this, like dose is nothing but like amount of this food we are supplying, dietary protein that we are supplying, that should be given in with a small frequent like small intervals. That means frequently we should give with a small time gap in small amount. So slowly we have to give food for every 2 to 3 hours. We should be continuously giving food in a small amounts. And during 1 week, the diet hyperglycemic is gradually enriched in protein. So it has wheat milk with mineral salts and vitamins. And also we should give lactases. Why? Because they will be having lactose intolerance, so they will not be able to digest this milk and milk products. So that we also have to include lactases in their diet. And antibiotics should be given to compensate for immune deficiency. And after 2 to 3 weeks, the milk should be replaced with cereals fortified with minerals like Cerelac, like that kind of thing should be given until its mass is at least 80% of the normal weight. And traditional food can be reintroduced. The child traditional food in like for small children, they'll be giving some kind of porridge kind of thing. They'll be giving with mixing of certain cereals, pulses, and rice, and they'll be making some kind of porridge. So that also can be reintroduced. The child is considered healed when their mass reaches 85% of normal. So they also, it mainly depends on giving this diet properly in regular intervals, which is rich in proteins. So first we'll be starting with milk and milk products, which is milk products along with lactases, and then we'll be changing it to cereals fortified with minerals, porridges, and traditional food also can be given until the patient reaches 85% of the normal weight. So this is all about kwashiorkor. And then coming to marasmus. So it is derived from the Greek word that is marasmos, which means withering or wasting. Wasting. So here also the patient will be wasting, that means becomes dangerously lean or thin. So it is also a form of protein energy malnutrition in which there is deficiency of calorie intake and which is characterized by wasting of muscles and tissues. So it generally develops between the ages of 6 months and 1 year in children who have been weaned from breast milk. So those who are weaned off from breast milk before the age of 1 year, they are at risk of getting this marasmus. And also those who are suffering from chronic diarrhea. So what are the causes of marasmus? So poverty, scarcity of food, and deficiency of nutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids due to any poverty or scarcity of food, and infections like viral, bacterial, and parasitic infections. So because of these infections, proper absorption of nutrients will not be taking place. So and also improper, inadequate consumption of food, and it's developing children who have weakening conditions such as chronic diarrhea, generally seen in the individuals who are having chronic diarrhea. So symptoms of marasmus include severe growth retardation. That means there will not be growth, and loss of subcutaneous fat. So subcutaneous fat will be lost. Severe muscle wasting, they'll become too lean. Wrinkled skin, the skin becomes wrinkled. So if you see this, these are the wrinkles. Bony prominence, so complete they'll be looking like a skeleton. Bony prominence associated, means each and every bone can be easily visualized, that we call it as bony prominence. Associated vitamin deficiencies, dehydration, temperature is subnormal, that is hypothermia can be seen, muscles are weak, edema and fatty infiltration are absent. So edema is not seen in the patient who are having marasmus. So these were the symptoms of marasmus. So again, coming to treatment, so the child is given dried skim milk powder mixed with boiled water, followed by mixing it with vegetable oils and finally sugar. So first we'll be giving this powdered milk powder with boiled water, followed by mixing it with vegetable oil, and then finally mixing it with sugar. So refeeding must be done slowly. Slowly we should do this process. Once children starts to recover, they should have more balanced diets which meet their nutritional needs. So after doing all this, again we have to provide balanced diet. And as infections or molds are also common in children with marasmus, so they should be given these antibiotics if required. And it can progress to a point of no return when the body's ability for protein synthesis is lost. So once body's ability was lost, we cannot bring back the individual to the normal. At this point, attempts to correct the disorder by giving food or protein are futile. So once this ability was lost, even though if we are giving this protein and any food preparations, it also becomes wasted. So it should be identified in the earlier stages and should be started immediately. And then what is marasmic kwashiorkor? It has the features of both marasmus and kwashiorkor. There will be severe edema of feet and legs and hands, arms, abdomen and face. And they will be having pale skin and hair. And the child will be looking sad all the way. And so these were the symptoms that we'll be seeing in marasmus kwashiorkor. Underweight means, so they may have reduced plasma albumin levels, so they are at risk of getting this respiratory and gastric infections. Clinical presentations of this underweight include poor weight gain, slowing of growth, edema, abdominal distension, hepatomegaly, dry peeling skin, hyperpigmented plaques, nails become fissured or ridged, thin hair, sparse, brittle, easily pulled out, and turns a dull brown or reddish color of hair. So these were the clinical presentations of underweight. So how do you treat this underweight? So it will be divided into three stages. So first we have to resolve life-threatening conditions. So first we have to bring back the patient from the life-threatening condition and restore nutritional status, and then ensure nutritional rehabilitation. So first is hospital treatment. So in the first of all, resolving life-threatening condition, that will be done in hospital. So what does we do? What are the things that we have to correct? It includes hypothermia, hypoglycemia, infection, dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, anemia, and vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So all those should be corrected in the hospital. And dietary management, so restoring, that comes under restoring nutritional status. So the diet should be from locally available staple foods, like which is inexpensive, easily digestible. Staple is a normal food which is available in normal shops and stores, evenly distributed throughout the day, and increased number of feedings to increase the quantity of food. So increased number of feedings should be done. And then coming to rehabilitation, so it's based on practical nutritional training for mothers, in which they can learn by feeding their children back to health under supervision and using local foods. So they will be guiding the mother like on how to feed the baby. So this is the rehabilitation in order to maintain the same health of the individual. So these were the three steps which we follow for treating this underweight. And prevention. So prevention of all these protein, energy, malnutrition, what are the steps that we have to take? So promoting breastfeeding. So at least minimum for 1 year should continuously we should be giving this breastfeeding should be suggested, and educating the mother about nutrition and correct feeding practice. So how to provide how to provide balanced diet to that childhood or to the children, that should be educated to that mother. And fortification of food, that means mixing of this food with nutrients and vitamins. Proper immunization of the infant from time to time, that means proper vaccination should be done from time to time. Early diagnosis and appropriate treatment. So earlier diagnosis should be done, and once earlier diagnosis was appropriate treatment should be started then and there immediately. And emphasizing on the importance of family planning and spacing between births. So there should be spacing between births, and that should be explained in detail to the mothers. Why? Because if there is no spacing between births, you cannot feed both the babies, two babies at the time in an equally. So there should be a proper spacing between births should be there. Minimum of 2 to 3 years should be maintained from one mother, from one baby to other. So that should be explained, and also we should explain about the importance of family planning. So these were the preventive methods of preventive measures that we have to take for preventing protein, energy, malnutrition. And then diet plan. So macronutrients also should be introduced into this child diet. So inclusion of milk-based formulas, which is having both proteins and also calories, that should be suggested. And doctors usually advise giving to the patient during the beginning of dietary treatment and within 7 days. So of 4 grams per kg of protein and 175 kilocalories per kg. So this was the measures that should be kept in mind while giving the proper dosing. And in case of adults, so it should be like 2 grams per kg of protein along with 60 kilocalories per kg. So these were the calories and these were the protein that should be given to that individual once if it is adult. If it is children, it is like 4 grams per kg of protein and 175 kilocalories per kg, that is calories. So this is how we'll be planning this diet according to this formula in order to prevent this, in order to prevent or in order to treat the patient from protein, energy, malnutrition. And then sanitation and hygiene. So it also plays an important role in protein, energy, and malnutrition. Why? Because providing not only adequate amount of food, but it should be very much hygiene food should be provided. Why? Because if we are not providing, if we are not maintaining proper sanitation and hygiene measures, what does it do? It causes infections. So if there is infection, again it causes decreased appetite and and it causes malabsorption, all of which again further promotes this protein, energy, malnutrition. So in order to prevent that, we should maintain proper hygienic measures should be taken, like cooking foods at high heat in order to destroy bacteria and reheating it before eating. So these measures should be taken. And boiling water before drinking, cooking, or bathing in areas where clean water is difficult to access. So these measures will be helping us to prevent these waterborne diseases. And breastfeeding infants for 6 months can help protect them from nutritional difficulties, especially in places where food is short. So minimum 6 months, 6 months to 1 year, breastfeeding should be done compulsorily in order to prevent protein, energy, malnutrition. So here is a picture showing the differences between kwashiorkor and marasmus. So in kwashiorkor, they will be having scaly skin, distended abdomen or large belly can be seen due to fluid retention in this abdomen, that is ascites, and swollen ankles and edema. And then coming to this marasmus, the patient will be very much lean, wasting, wrinkled skin, or face will be like old person's face and sad and dull. Hair loss can be there, and severe muscle wasting can be seen, and there will be no edema in case of marasmus. So this is how you differentiate between kwashiorkor and marasmus. So kwashiorkor is protein deficiency, marasmus is calorie deficiency. So this is the differences between kwashiorkor and marasmus. So these two comes under protein energy malnutrition. So this is all about protein energy malnutrition, and I hope you are all clear with it, and thank you all. Thank you.